Thanks for your support of the Dirt Doctor podcast. Quick reminder, you can visit dirtdoctor.com to click on the Ask Howard button and get a question submitted. He'd be happy to read and answer your question on the show and continue his quest to convert the world to organics. Without further ado, here he is, my dad, the Dirt Doctor, Howard Garrett.
All right, let's get this week's podcast underway. Got quite a few things to catch up on, seasonal things where the timing is pretty important this time of the year. We'll get into those. We're going to talk about our SPCA dog first. And Maggie told me she just adopted a dog, and I don't know if it's this one or one of the others at the SPCA, but it may be Maxine, 2.5 years old, Shepherd mix. She's free. She's a senior lady. So check her out, and if Maggie didn't get her, she may be available for you. And there's several other really great dogs that are still available down there that we've talked about on dirtdoctor.com. So just click on the SPCA button there, and you can see Maxine, maybe, and the other dogs as well. My tea this morning, I'm kind of out of season here with my Christmas cup, but my tea is my favorite, juniper and nettles and lemon balm. Lemon balm is really spreading around the place right now. If you plant it, be a little careful with it. It's easy to pull out if it gets into areas where you don't want it, but it will spread. It's one of those kind of easy to grow herbs. Very useful, but it's a little rambunctious from time to time. We've got a couple of new advertisers. Let me go ahead and chat about them for just a minute before we go to the slideshow. Dram has been a really good sponsor of ours for some time. Dram not only makes nozzles and hoses and watering devices, sprinkler heads, a lot of things, anything related to irrigation, Dram, D-R-A-M-M. They do a great job with all that. But guess what? They also make an organic liquid fertilizer product that's really good. Give it a try. You could use it as the base for your Garrett juice mixture. I don't think they would mind you doing that. And then another one of our advertisers that's really timely. I was speaking to a gardening club today, and this question came up, and it's one of the questions where I have to tell people that mosquito control is one of those things where I don't have a foolproof answer as far as completely getting rid of them. But the best program there is using these products from Summit. Mosquito Bits, they make Mosquito Bits, which is a granular product, and they make, I'm sure you've seen the donuts, the mosquito dunks. These you put into standing water or the granules. You can do either one. But I also use them a little bit different way. They don't approve of this that much. I have to do it kind of on my own. But one of the things I do as part of the mosquito program at our place is that I put out something different every time I treat or have a company come over and help me with the treating. I'll put out liquid cedar spray and granular cedar flakes on the ground. Next time I might put out dry granulated garlic. And next time spray garlic oil all over the place. And then I like to use the BTI products. Now, Summit makes a liquid product. It's more of a commercial product, and it's a little on the pricey end for homeowners. But a little trick that I use, and like I said, they may or may not approve of me recommending this use. You can do it with the dunks or with the granules. Either one of the granules are easy. I fill 5-gallon buckets full of water, and then I throw grass and dead plants and crud in it, make it a really a messy liquid 5-gallon bucket full of stuff. And what that does is attract female mosquitoes to lay eggs. Why would you do that, Howard? Well, I'm setting a trap because I'm throwing some of the mosquito bits in that messy mosquito attracting 5-gallon bucket. And if you put several around, I use the black ones because they don't show up very much. It attracts the females to lay their eggs, the BTI, which is what the active ingredients in these products are, knocks them out. It works great. You can use the granules or the dunks, either one, for this idea. But you can also take the granules or the dunks and crush them into a powder, put them in water, and don't tell them I recommended this, but you can spray it around. One of the reasons that I like doing that is mosquitoes can breed in very, very small bodies of water, even the axils of plants. My bamboo, for example, where the little shoots go out from the bamboo, the main bamboo stem, holds in that area holds enough water for mosquitoes to get started. So very small areas of even moist mulch can hold enough moisture to get mosquitoes going. So that's why I like to throw the products out. These are labeled to put in wet areas and standing water, of course, but this is a little bit different technique, spraying it around so you're getting it in the tiny little bodies of water in your garden. And you can get the mosquitoes under control as well as any other technique that I know of. So give it a shot. And the dram products for your irrigation and your liquid fertilizer. We'll probably pause a little bit there for you to see the slideshow that I've put together for you, and then we'll start over again on answering questions of the Q&A section right after this. Okay, before we get into the Q&A part of today's podcast, I wanted to give you a little quick slideshow, a slideshow of the fabulous tree slideshow. Go to the middle of the page of dirtdoctor.com and click on, you can see the general information here first that covers some basic information about some of the great trees that I've been around. I think you might like that. We have a lot more detail in the slideshow. Here's how you see it. You simply click on that red button, that red arrow. And I like to go over here and click this arrow here. That gives you full screen. And the full screen thing just makes it easier for you to see the shots. And under each shot, there's an explanation like you see there, mycorrhizal fungus, the key to healthy trees. Every photograph has a cut line under it so you know what you're looking at. Now, you can let it advance at the speed you're seeing here now. Note there, trees can't be planted too high. And, you know, we explained why that is, but they can be way too deep in the ground like this. You can advance it yourself with the right arrow on your computer. We talk about the fact that the organic manual has the most up-to-date technical information about all this stuff that we're talking about if you want to go that route. But the planting instructions I recommend are covered here. How to dig the hole, leave it not quite as deep as the height of the ball. We want the ball a little bit above ground grade, and it gives you all the rest of the details there with it. What not to do when digging holes, what not to do when planting trees, like wrapping the tree trunks, things like that. Give you, if you're going to stake trees, which I don't recommend that much, how to do it properly. And then stories about trees, like this little dwarf Japanese maple that I bought in a container, 7-gallon. Lo and behold, it was a balled burlap plant jammed down in a container. And I show the whole procedure of how I removed it, removed the burlap, took the soil off, 4 inches of soil about under the burlap. And you'll run into that commonly, so this is very helpful advice for you on planting any kind of a woody plant, not just trees. But when we planted the little tree properly, with the flare showing, as you see there, it has done very well over the years. It's a dwarf, so it hasn't gotten to be a huge tree, but it is a beauty. You see it there on the right by Carmen. But those kind of stories, and then general information about the fact that all trees have flares except for palm trees, and some have more dramatic flares than others, like crepe myrtles here. Crepe myrtle too deep in the ground, Crepe myrtle with exposed flare like that is what you want. You'll have bigger plants, better growth, fewer pest problems, better flowers and all that. If the trees are too deep in the ground like this one, you'll have a lot of stress in the trees and insect and disease problems, pathogens, and lots of other things. The Fabulous Tree Slideshow shows you what to avoid and how to manage your trees properly. And then the stories about some of the greatest trees in the world, I think you'll really enjoy. You'll learn how to have beautiful flares on your trees, like this trident maple. And the next one, yes, is a red oak. I thought it was. It's a beauty. And then that's my ginkgo at home. You'll see the whole story about one of the biggest ginkgos in Texas today. Hope you enjoyed the little slideshow of the Fabulous Tree Slideshow on dirtdoctor.com. Check it out. I think you will gain some good information, and it'll help you with those fabulous plants you have at your place, the trees. The Fabulous Tree Slideshow actually will help you with any woody plant, but especially ornamental trees, shade trees, the larger trees. That's where the money is. That's where your greatest investment in your landscape is. And so hopefully this will help you save some money, have healthier plants, and enjoy your gardening more than you did before. Give it a look-see. It's the Fabulous Tree Slideshow. Okay, and then we'll start up the Q&As. One of the Q&A questions that we've gotten quite a bit relates to mosquitoes, and that's why I wanted to start with that. I think you'll find that if you look at the program, and we've got it explained on dirtdoctor.com too, and try that approach where you're using different things each time. Have the BTI products as your base, but use different sprays and different dry granular applications every time you put something out. You're going to see some really good control. Okay, I had some questions about post oaks. Some people have 100+ trees, and they were asking me about what was the best way to have an affordable approach to pretty good sized tree loss. And I've heard that a lot from people over in the Fort Worth area and west of Fort Worth, having trees, post oaks and blackjack oaks, the native oaks, punching out, just not making it. Some of that's drought, a lot of it's drought. The post oaks, even though they're tough native trees, they don't like droughts. And when you go through a really strong drought period of time, and they've had some other stress as well, like the temperature falling 50 degrees in 24 hours or something like that, you have some problems. So people are asking me what I recommend from an organic standpoint. And one of the things we've had good luck with, I've recommended a couple of arborists to do this work on post oaks, and that is to do at least a portion of the sick tree treatment. And in this case, the most important part of the sick tree treatment would be the application of liquid cornmeal. Put 2 handfuls of cornmeal in a 5-gallon bucket of water, stir it up, let it sit. You've heard me talk about it a lot of times. Strain out the solids and spray the liquid on the root zone of the trees. It really helps a lot, because if you've got a tree that's in stress from drought or from temperature changing, real strong temperature change, you're going to have a stressed plant that is susceptible to pathogens and other things. So that's why the cornmeal liquid application to the root zone is such a good thing to consider. Very cost effective. You can get a 50-pound bag of whole ground cornmeal, a couple of handfuls in a 5-gallon bucket of water, like I said, and make that liquid go out as far as you have the budget to treat trees. if you have a lot of trees, and you'll see some great results. We're seeing results with that technique even on oak wilt down in the hill country. A group I was talking to this morning at a garden club, they asked me what kind of cornmeal to use. The whole ground cornmeal from the feed store or the garden center is the best way to go because it is the most cost effective. All cornmeal will work, stimulating trichoderma in the soil and helping to override pathogens. And that's why I recommend the most cost effective that you can find. So give that a shot if you haven't already. Question about fire ants. Fire ants, at this time of the year, people are asking me if it's okay to use boric acid and borax. They had seen some of the indoor baits that I had in some of my previous books, especially the early ones. We were recommending a lot of baits that would contain sugar of some kind and boric acid. I don't recommend that much anymore. It's okay. I have told people that you can use the Arm & Hammer detergent mixed together with sugar 50-50 and put it in a glass container, and it will attract roaches and does a real good job of that. It even works for ant control to a degree as well. But I don't recommend boric acid products and borates outside much because it's really easy to use too much and create a bigger problem than you had to begin with. So what's really a better way to go on the fire ants is what you hear me talk about all the time, and that is put out dry, granulated, dry molasses, put it out at 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet, and 99% of the time it'll take care of business. If you need to treat individual mounds, mix into Garrett juice in a ready to spray mixture 2 ounces of orange oil. Pour the mixture right in the center of the fire ant mound, and then circle around and get the rest of the fire ant mound. But the first pouring right in the center so it breaks through the crust and goes straight down in the fire ant mound. That's going to give you the best chance of catching the queen. But you may not even have to do that. If you put out the dry molasses all over the whole property at that 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet, you might not have any fire ants anymore within a few days, a few weeks anyway. So give either one of those a try, whichever one fits your program the best. Beneficial nematodes and trichogramma wasp, I'm going to keep talking about because we're still in that window for the best time to apply them. Trichogramma wasps help you with the caterpillars of all kinds. Beneficial nematodes help you with the nematodes, any insect that has at least one of its life cycles down in the ground, including fleas and ticks and grubworms. And by the way, one of the things that Bob Webster and I were talking about the other day, he's seeing in San Antonio and I'm seeing here too, and people are seeing it on golf courses, they're seeing it on parks, they're seeing it in residential property, and that is June bugs flying around all over the place. Well, what that means is you're going to have grubworms unless you put out beneficial nematodes. As I have been recommending for the last couple of years, the best way to buy the beneficial nematodes is to contact Nature's Control company, get them mail order. They come from that company on the blue sponge, and that's the best way to apply them. You'll have the best luck. They cost the most, but they work the best, okay? And trichogramma wasp, best a place for you to go there is mail order from Kunifin Labs down in Eagle Pass, Texas. Trichogramma wasp and beneficial nematodes were still in the window for the best application time of the year. And you'll be amazed at how many different pest problems you will eliminate if you just do those 2 beneficial organism releases. Okie dokie. Roundup replacement. What do I use instead of Roundup? Well, you'll see on some of the videos, YouTube videos, if you go to dirtdoctor.com and click on the YouTube button, one that takes you to the podcast, it'll get you to the place where the podcasts that we do like this show up. And it'll also show you a bunch of old videos that I've done, and a lot of them talk about the different things that I use instead of Roundup. The main one is vinegar, 20% vinegar. You want to make it stronger, add an ounce of orange oil and an ounce of liquid molasses to each gallon of 20% vinegar, and spot spray. Don't spray all over the place. It's a contact killer, works very well. I got a question in the talk today that I did about getting rid of poison ivy and other woody vines. The woody vines are the toughest weeds of all. The number one tough one is the one I have here at the office and at the art studio. And it was here when we bought the place, and it's still here, and I continue to work on it. It's called Carolina's snail seed. It's a woody vine. It travels underground. When you break it, it rejuvenates from every little piece. It's kind of like bindweed in that regard. Bindweed and the Carolina snail seed you treat the same way. Physical removal and then spot spray of the new little emerging leaves that come out of the ground to try to regrow the plant. Spraying the woody vines that are up on fences and trees and things, you're just going to be wasting your time and wasting your money. Pull them out, rip them out, chop them out with a hoe, get rid of them physically, then spray the regrowth with the vinegar. You can also use in a bed where you're not going to be hurting other plants. You can use the push-pull hose. One of them looks like a stirrup, a riding stirrup, and another one, it's just a triangular piece of steel that's sharp on all three edges, and in both cases you just do a push-pull action, and it's really good for a lot of weeds, including the Carolina snail seed or poison ivy once you have removed the bulk of the poison ivy. Physical removal is always first step of those woody weeds. Now, if you're allergic to poison ivy, really sensitive to it, don't do it yourself. Hire somebody to do it. I don't want to be giving you poison ivy so bad you're going to end up in the hospital, but physical removal does need to be done. A lot of the crews that work for the various landscape contractors and all at least claim to be immune to the dermatitis that you get from poison ivy. Maybe not. I don't know. I've actually, when we bought this place 20 years ago or whatever it was, there's a western arborvitae. It's the arborvitae that grows bigger and taller and more open than the northern arborvitae, cemetery plant that you see that grows in this kind of shape and stays real dense. There was poison ivy growing up in that arborvitae that had a stem that big around. It was literally 2.5-inch caliper stem of poison ivy, and the poison ivy was all up in the tree. And I hired a landscape contractor who was recommended to me by my next door neighbor, and I asked him if they could handle poison ivy, and he said, yeah, I got guys that work for me that aren't allergic to it at all. I said, okay. I showed him the poison ivy. His eyes got about this big, and he said, okay, we can handle it. They were climbing in the tree, cutting it with chainsaws, getting the chainsaw, the sawdust all over them and everything. And I thought, how in the world are they going to stay out of the hospital doing this? And they claimed it was no problem. It was funny, I didn't see one of the guys for a couple of weeks after that. So I think one of them maybe was allergic to the poison ivy. Then the other word of warning there related to poison ivy is don't ever burn it. If you burn it and breathe the smoke, it's very, very dangerous. So don't do that. Putting it in the compost pile is okay. The compost operation, if you have enough volume to where you get the heat up in the compost like you should, that will neutralize the dermatitis causing oil in the poison ivy. Be careful handling it, though, until it has broken down. Let's see what else we got here. Bugs in the organic fertilizer. Yeah, it's a fairly common question that I get. Just got it again, and that is somebody opened up a bag of cornmeal and they had, or some kind of organic fertilizer, it might have been corn gluten meal, and they said that there were insects in it. I have that happen all the time. I'll see sometimes moths in the products. I'll sometimes see various insects, beetles of various kinds. I don't ever worry about it at all. I just feel like they've added a little more protein to the product, and I put it out and don't worry about it at all. So if you have that situation, a couple of other things you can do if you want to. You can put it in the freezer and freeze it and kill all of the insects in it if you don't want to mess with it, or just go ahead and put it out. The broadcasting will disturb them, and they probably won't live through that operation at all. So whether it's organic fertilizer, one of the blends, or it's cornmeal or corn gluten meal or whatever it is, you may from time to time see some insects in there. Don't worry about it. You could mix diatomaceous earth in it and knock some of them out with it or something like that if you want to. It's just a matter of time and spending some money, but I wouldn't. I would just go ahead and use the product. The other thing related to that is the dry molasses, sometimes cornmeal, but mostly the dry molasses product. Sometimes organic fertilizers will do this too. You'll get it, you'll leave it out, it'll get sprinkled on by the irrigation system. In other words, get wet somehow or another and set up to be as hard as concrete. And people ask me what to do with it. Well, one, you can put it in the driveway and put some plywood over it and drive over it with your car and crush it and take it back to a granular form. That'll work, and you can go ahead and broadcast it again. Or you can cut it up into chunks and soak those chunks in water and make yourself some molasses tea, or the beginning of a Garrett juice mixture, for example, or a tea of whatever it is. Organic fertilizer, you can put in water and turn it into a tea. Strain the solids out, throw the solids in the compost pile or in the beds, and then use the liquid part of the product that had congealed into a hard mess to make you a liquid product that you can spray on your plants. You can turn any of the organic things, including lava sand and azomite, the powder form, and things like that, into a liquid form. That's one of the things that we can do with the organic products. Don't want to do that with the synthetic stuff, but I don't want you using the synthetic fertilizers and amendments anyway. The reason, they don't work as well. They end up costing more if you look at overall costs, including water use. And if you're a landscape company, one of the first landscape companies I ever converted to organics, Lambert Landscape Company, the owner, Stan Wetzel, at the time, the guy that controlled it at that time, decided to go organic and have me convert them over because he found out that it would save the company something like $30,000 a year in insurance costs. That's one of the things that a lot of the landscape contractors don't look at, I'm afraid, because not enough of them do the organic approach. Those of you that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you've probably seen the banner ads on dirtdoctor.com of Spriggs Brothers. That's one of the landscape companies that does the organic approach. They tend to work in Dallas and concentrate on the northern part of Dallas. But you can go to dirtdoctor.com and look up the business recommendations. We've got a whole section on contractors and business people that do organics. We've got a whole other section on retail stores that we know sell at least some organic products. So if you haven't checked that out yet, do. It's on dirtdoctor.com, and you can see the buttons on the home page will give you directional guidance on where to find those things. And if you I have this happen every few weeks, somebody will send us a name to add to the list that they have as one of their contractors. Some of the people that are contractors that do organic techniques or sell organic products will let us know, and we add them to the lists. So that's just one of the other things that you need to look at on dirtdoctor.com when you have a chance. Let me see what else. I had one question here that came in. By the way, the form is pretty convenient that you get when you go to the Ask Howard button on the homepage of dirtdoctor.com. And that's where you can fill in your name, your location, and the question that you have for me. And this question was, this past winter, I grew pansies in a large ceramic pot. The flowers developed a white powdery fungus and eventually died. My question is, should I throw out all the potting soil in the container when I plant my summer annuals? I typically replace about half the soil with fresh soil. Also, if I must discard all of the soil, must I treat the ceramic pot in any way? Well, let me tell you what I do. I am very much carefree with my personal approach to this. Pretty cavalier, you might say. I don't ever worry about it. I reuse the soil in potted plants no matter whether they flourished or they had problems. I recycle it. I add a little bit more of all the amendments that I recommend, the compost, organic fertilizer, lava sand, azomite, cornmeal, all the typical stuff. Not as much as the first time around, just enough, just kind of spike it a little bit. And if I have any worry, if I bought a pot in from a nursery or I don't know what kind of chemicals or whatever they were doing with their plants, I will clean the pot out with hydrogen peroxide first before I put the potting soil in there. If you have a potting soil that you know had some pretty serious diseases, like this writer suggested, powdery mildew or whatever, you could, on a one-time treatment, drench the hydrogen peroxide through the soil. Never more than once. I don't do it. I use a little cornmeal and I use the organic amendments. But if you're afraid of some pathogens that might be hanging around, at least clean the pot out with the hydrogen peroxide, then add your potting soil to it, or put the old potting soil back in there if you want to. If you do treat with the hydrogen peroxide, it's going to kill beneficial microbes as well as the pathogens. So remember that. You're going to be kind of starting over. You're going to have to rev up that biological activity in the soil again if you use the hydrogen peroxide. My best advice probably is to dump the soil out, treat the pot with the hydrogen peroxide, put the potting soil you used back in, a lot of good cornmeal in there, and a few of the other amendments. Plant away, spray Garrett juice, drench Garrett juice. You'll be in good shape in 99% of the time. If you want to go the ultimate route, dump the soil out, treat it with hydrogen peroxide, mix in all the amendments again, treat the pot with hydrogen peroxide, replant. I don't do that. I just reuse the soil and kick up the biological activity with the things that you hear me recommend ad nauseum here, okay? And I think that was pretty much it for today. I'm doing a little in Howard's garden stuff. I've got a new ginkgo. You probably maybe saw the Facebook video that I did of it. We planted a ginkgo out back, and I showed just the rough and tumble techniques that I use out there. There's some weeds growing in that turf area, and I'm pulling those weeds out away from the flare of that little ginkgo now, doing the same treatment that I recommend for people in the beginning. And you sometimes have to do it more than once because weeds and grass will grow back in, water will wash from the neighbors and silt back in around the flare. In other words, we got to maintain having that flare dramatically exposed, and that tree will perform for you to the greatest extent that it can. That's all I can tell you. It will perform as well as it possibly can if you keep that flare exposed and keep working on it and do nothing but organic treatments as far as your fertilizer and amendments. The tree will just do beautifully for you, whether it's a ginkgo or a Montezuma cypress or a live oak or anything else. Well, I'm Howard Garrett, the Dirt Doctor. I have enjoyed being with you again. Go to the Ask Howard button. If you got something for me to answer, I'll answer it during the week, and then we'll talk about it on the show on the next podcast. Enjoy your gardens if you're already into it. If you haven't started the organic approach yet, come on in. The water's fine, and I'll see you next time.